Well, the very warmest of welcomes, everybody. My name is Kasim, and welcome back again to Journal Entries. I hope all is well. I hope your week has been treating you okay. Um, I hope life is good. I hope things are progressing for you. It's interesting. As I'm thinking about this and I'm talking about this, yesterday I was having a conversation with somebody and I was saying that one of the things that's really important in life is to allow room for life when you're making your calculations about life. All of us have sort of a narrative or a blueprint about how we believe life should be, about how we believe people should behave, about how we see ourselves, about how we show up, about how we believe people who are religious should be. We have these sort of blueprints or narratives about various facets and domains of existence. And I always say to people that in those, when you're making your calculations based on your own experience, based on people you've met, based on what you've read, heard, seen, been exposed to, you have to also leave some room for disappointment. You also have to leave some room for things to go wrong. You also have to leave room for Murphy's Law. You also have to leave room for the unexpected. You have to leave room for life, right? Because life happens. Sometimes people pass away, things go wrong, you get disappointed, you get betrayed, people turn their back on you, things you thought were going to work out don't work out. Political change happens, social change happens, internal change happens, physiological, mental, or spiritual change can happen, and it can completely throw us off. So, I try to explain to people that a huge amount of life is leaving room for life in itself when we're making our calculations, which kind of fits into what I actually want to talk to you about today, which is the topic of coming out. And more specifically, what is coming out? Does the person have to come out? Are you gay, lesbian, bisexual? Are you queer? Are you questioning what you are? And it's quite interesting when I talk about um, coming out in the context of being gay in terms of a sexuality, because actually coming out can mean is an umbrella term for many different coming outs, because coming out sometimes can be coming out to our true voice. There's a lot of us in life who we're shy, we are not self-confident. We lack self-esteem. We don't stand up for ourselves. And actually, so for us, coming out isn't coming out in terms of our sexuality, but it's coming out in terms of our internal raw, in terms of that energy with and that spirit within us, which engages the core spiritual strengthening, sort of umbilical um, uh, and uh, vibrational part of ourselves. There is a strength in standing on who we are. That question of who am I? What do I stand for? What do I believe in? What do I want? What are my boundaries? What are my standards? What do I expect of myself? There's a strength in being able to sit in that place within ourselves. So sometimes actually that is what coming out means. For other people, coming out means leaving a job or a career or a path that you thought you were going to be doing, and following your true path. They say that the worst thing that you can do is to live a life, or put a ladder up on the wrong wall and live it, and then down the road to discover that you've lived the wrong life. It's one of the worst things that can happen to a person, spending years sacrificing, giving of yourself, and at the end of it, you end up empty. And so coming out can mean different things. But in the context of today, coming out, we're going to be talking about identity. So at its core, coming out essentially means telling someone about a part of yourself that most people will assume you're not, unless you say what you are. So in our case, I'm talking about somebody coming out as bisexual, coming out as gay, coming out as queer, pansexual, um, or just somebody who's coming out as just saying that they are bi-curious or that they're just experimenting. If you're a boy and man, especially in Britain, we live in a world where boys and men aren't really allowed to experiment, particularly with their sexuality. Anything that is presumed or is seen as feminine or as gay or as vulnerable is shamed, it is judged, it is punished, it is ridiculed. Consequently, boys and men never go through a coming of age. We never go through experimentation. We never go through a period in our lives where we explore our bodies and our limits. That might mean pegging, that might mean having sex with men and women, that might mean giving blowjobs, that might mean wearing feminine clothing. That might mean dating people who are outside of our race or of a different gender. That might mean um, uh, dating people who are the complete opposite to us. For example, in the gay community, there's tops and bottoms and jocks and bears and twinks. That might mean coming out to ourselves and dating people who don't necessarily represent what we believe or the role that we've had to play. Because there are some people who, for most of their life, have been considered twinks and they've been considered feminine because that is what their physical appearance looks like, but actually they would like to experiment. They would like to explore being a top, being a versatile. But even within the queer community and the gay community and the LGBTQ plus community, we should be open. Even there are subcategories and there are boxes and there are sects in which there are in groups and out groups. And so a huge amount of coming out is being able to experiment. The term coming out is comes from an older phrase called coming out of the closet. And it is really a metaphor for no longer hiding that part of yourself in private, in an invisible space, right? It's not necessarily about the words say or coming out and saying, I'm gay, I'm bisexual, I'm lesbian, whatever it may be, how you present. What it really is about naming your truth to other people. All of us have a truth. There is two truths. There is the truth and there is a truth. The truth is incontrovertible. The law of gravity is the truth. It doesn't matter if you're man, woman, boy, girl, you go on top of a building, you jump off it, you'll always come down, right? And a truth is how we experience the world. How other people may experience us may not necessarily be a representation of how we experience ourselves, which is where, you know, in fact, part of coming out, one of the things that's really important about it is it's liberating because you no longer have to hide and you can just be. You no longer have to respond, but you can just exist, right? You no longer have to put on a facade. You just can be yourself. And there is a lot of power in that. It's also about acknowledging those parts of ourselves that we've often kept private. If you're having to keep something private, then you cannot celebrate it. You cannot embrace it. You cannot share it with other people. And human beings are social beings. When something wonderful or amazing happens to us, the first thing that we want to go do is tell somebody, which is why for many people, when they come out, um, to somebody for the first time, you hear many people say things like, I have a weight off my shoulder, right? And I guess there are two aspects to coming out because there is the aspect of actually verbalizing it, and there's the and there's the act of actually acting it out. Because what I've noticed is in my therapy room is that there is a lot of boys and men who act out coming out, meaning they'll go on and have a hookup, but they haven't actually verbalized what they are. So when people say to them, "Are you gay? Are you straight?" They won't, they cannot say the words that I'm bi or I'm gay, but they will act it out. They will give blowjobs. They will be top. They will bottom. They will top. And one of the healing aspects of coming out is being able to not only name what you are, but to actually verbalize it, to say it, right? They say that one of the most powerful things that you can do And is the hardest thing for many people is to come out to yourself, to acknowledge that which is what you are, and to stop hiding it in the shadows, right? Choosing visibility in a world that still assumes your heterosexuality is the norm is very, very, very powerful, right? But I also want to say, I do think it's really important to understand that coming out can also mean different things to different people. For some people, it's about publicly embracing their sexuality in a way that's open and unapologetic. For others, it's a quiet conversation with somebody that they trust. For many, it's a mixture of both. You hear some people who come out and they don't tell anybody. Nobody knows that they've come out. For example, I can use myself as an example. Many people would never know that I'm bisexual unless I tell them, because for me, I don't feel the need to express my sexuality. My sexuality is a very tiny portion of my identity and my being. For me, it isn't. It doesn't, to quote unquote, say what many people say. It doesn't make up my personality. Whereas for some people, it's really, really important. And I will say this whilst we're here, coming out is not a one-time event. Coming out often means that you have to come out several times, right? It's a lifelong process when you come out. The first time you come out might be to yourself, then you might come out to friends, then you might come out to family, but then you might get into situations where you have to come out again. For example, in work situations, in friendships, in dating, in healthcare, right? Or even in casual conversations. So each one of those processes and stages means that you're going to have to come out at that different stage. Now, you have to understand that coming out comes with a whole lot of questions, right? For those boys and men who have not yet come out, there is a lot of questions. Questions like, am I really gay? Am I bi? Am I pan? Or is this just a phrase? And do you know something? Let me tell you something. The thing about this, about coming out to you initially in the very beginning stages, is that when you do eventually decide to come out to other people, if you decide to, it's advisable that you know and think about some of these answers because people are going to ask you these questions. People are going to say to you, so are you bi? Are you sure you're not gay? And people will box you in because, for example, when you're a bisexual man, there are many people who say that when you say you're bisexual, they'll just say, oh, but you're gay, right? And then when you say you're gay, but really eh, you're kind of 70% gay, 30% bi, people won't accept you for that either, right? So questions like, how can I be sure about my sexuality without experimenting? Does liking some women mean that I'm not really gay? What if I come out and later on realize I was wrong? Will my friends treat me differently? Will I still be one of the boys? Will women still want to be with me? How do I even meet other guys without outing myself? Will a future partner want to be with someone who came out later in life? Will my family reject me? Could I lose my job or housing? Will I be safe if I'm open about it? What if people gossip about me in my community? Can I still have kids or a family? Will I be alone if I come out? Will my life be much harder if I come out? Will people respect me less as a man? What will happen to my dreams if they don't align with being openly gay or bi? For example, this happens a lot with people who come from religious or faith positions. Um, what about why can't I just be normal? Am I disappointing my family or my culture? Will I regret hiding for so long? Am I strong enough to deal with the rejection? How do you even date? Where do you go to date? I've heard about Grinder. I'm not really one of those people who does hookups. I want to date with the view of a relationship. Is that even possible? So many questions come up. And this is why I say, and I wrote this blog, which I'll link in the comment section, um, not in the comment section, in the description. this is why I wrote the blog because a lot of people have questions, and I recommend that they come to therapy because in therapy, you're going to have a safe space to be able to explore how you're feeling. In therapy, you're going to have a safe place to be able to explore what's going on for you, right? Bear with me 1 second whilst I take a sip of water. Thank you for that. Because you have to understand that one of the questions that people have is, will things get better for me if I come out, right? Because for some people, coming out is a massive relief. They no longer have to hide. There's less internal tension, more, they can live more honestly and make meaningful connections, right? But for others, if they live in environments that are unsafe, judgmental, or discriminatory, coming out can lead to real life risks, rejection from family, strained friendships, loss of housing, workplace discrimination, or even threats to personal life. So in some cases, actually, coming out, especially in the in like a safe place, like therapy, might not be a good idea because you may come to therapy and be sat with a therapist, and when you explain to them about the context of your life, now therapists don't give advice, but they may offer an option to you where they say to you that it might not be wise to necessarily come out now. But for example, we know that a lot of people come out when they go to university, right? So a huge amount of it is going to depend on the level of acceptance in your family, community, and workplace, your level of readiness, and your ability to navigate the possible backlash, your support systems, as in, do you have friends, partners, community groups, online networks, but of course, financial factors and housing stability, right? So these are some of the things that you want to start thinking about. Because if you don't actually start thinking about this and you don't come out on all of this kind of stuff, it can really, really, really begin impact your mental health, right? So one of the things that I recommend is have a read of my blog. I hope it's useful. I hope you like it. Um, if you have any questions, please like and subscribe to my channel. But apart from that, I'm going to stop there. And thank you very, very much for listening. And I shall speak to you very soon. Bye for now.